Hello, welcome to Cognitive Connections. I'm Dr. Lise DeLong, and I'm here to tell you just a little bit about auditory processing problems. Here at Cognitive Connections, we use standardized tests to look for 4 different elements of auditory processing. That would be auditory sequential memory, auditory association, auditory reception, and auditory discrimination. Auditory processing problems are kind of a funny thing because truly it's not that the ear doesn't hear, it's that the brain does not perceive what the ears are actually hearing. And that can happen for several different reasons. It might happen because you were born with the genetic disposition for auditory processing problems. It could happen because of some sort of head injury, or it could happen because of ear infections or something like that, some allergies when you were young and just first learning language. So I'm going to go back to each one of them very quickly and explain a little bit about what each one of them really are. Auditory discrimination is being able to understand the tiniest little phonemes within a sound. So it would be misinterpreting duh for buh or cuh for fuh. And most of the time, if a child has a problem with auditory discrimination, you'll notice it in their speech. They'll have problems pronouncing R's or L's or S's or something like that. Then there's auditory reception. Auditory reception is interesting because it gives the illusion of ADD or ADHD. So if information is coming at you very quickly and your brain is trying to perceive this information, then what happens is the brain will literally listen to it as though it's a foreign language, and it will listen very hard for a few minutes just to see what words it can pick up here and there, and then it just stops listening, just as if you were listening to someone speak a different language than what you speak. And so what happens with that is, after your brain's shut down, what's it going to do? Probably touch somebody or fiddle, mess around with their hair. They're going to play with pencils. They're going to move around because there's nothing else to do. They're bored listening because they can't understand a word of what's being said because of the speed that it's coming at them and because of their brain is not able to receive that information fast enough to be able to understand it. So that one always has a speed processing element that goes along with it as well. Then there's auditory association. An auditory association is when you retain, when you absorb information, where are you actually filing it in your brain? If I were to say a daddy is big, a baby is, we would hope that someone would say little or small or tiny because of the size. Daddy was big. But for somebody who has a problem with auditory association, they might say something like cute, adorable, the baby's stinky. They're going to describe the baby in whatever ways they want because they cannot associate the size of the person as part of the sentence. So for that person, they give the appearance that they know information at one point and then they don't know it again. So what they've done is they've actually stored that information into a different place within the brain, and when they go to retrieve it, it's not there. So they have a problem with auditory association. The last area that I'm going to talk about real quick is auditory sequential memory. An auditory sequential memory is how many digits of information can you hold in your brain at one time. So we would like to think that people can eventually hold a phone number in their head at one time. For you to be able to do that means that you have to be able to absorb and hold into your short-term memory 7 digits or sometimes 10 digits of information. For people that have problems with sequential memory, they will have a very difficult time, sometimes with 4 or 5 digits of information. And if that's the case, these people are going to really give the appearance of having problems with problem solving because they're not going to be able to hold the information in their head long enough that they're going to then be able to use that information productively in a problem solving sentence. So they also might have some problems with spelling because they cannot remember how the word is spelled. Now, if they don't have a problem with auditory discrimination, they'll be able to sound it out and be able to figure it out. So they don't always have to have a problem with spelling, but that could be an indicator. And of course, with the auditory association, that's usually reading comprehension is usually a problem with that as well. So each one of the different areas of auditory processing are just essential to the learning process, and especially in the U.S., the way we teach our children, it's very, very, very important because so much of it is done through lecture and so much of it is done just listening. And if you don't have the ability to hear, what you end up hearing teachers say to these children is just listen harder. I'll pay you money if you'll just listen to me. Or they give the child a very difficult time for not hearing, not listening. And in many, many, many cases, these kids cannot listen, or sometimes these adults cannot listen. And so paying them, bribing them, taking things away, it's not going to help in that instance at all. It would be like me saying, I'll give you $5 if you take your glasses off and you can just see better. It isn't going to happen. Auditory association, auditory reception, auditory discrimination, and auditory sequential memory. Those are the 4 different areas at Cognitive Connections we work with. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.